Beetles and Bailey. He awoke with a large, angry welt on his hand. George Bailey did not think much of it at first. It was the third such welt to appear in as many nights. However, now it was beginning to become an issue. There was no way to tell if it was a spider bite or a ringworm. It was early in the morning, and the sun hadn't even hinted at showing its face to the world, when he had felt as if something was tugging at him. At first he thought it was his dog, but remembered that Sergeant Bark had passed away, quietly, some nights ago now. Mr. Bailey did not clean his sheets, as he had no one to wash them for him, and after all, that was woman's work. He was too busy, and too important for such trivial pursuits. Indeed, it could be said that despite being well off, he was absent-minded to the concerns of hygiene. He checked the sheets and checked the beds. Nothing could be found. He left the sheets as they were and quickly left to get dressed for the day. His normal business attire sat waiting in a neatly folded pile on a nearby chair, where he laid his other effects. He needed to be at the office at once to start filing the paperwork for the Furrow & Sons buyout. Mr. Bailey was about to retrieve his trousers when a sudden tingling came upon his right arm, where the welt had been. Looking down at it, he felt as though it had moved somehow. Which was of course preposterous, he told himself, and continued to reach for his clothes. He felt it again, moving this time from a bump near his waist. The pain was blinding, as if something were writhing inside of him, twisting his sinew and skin. He moved away from the clothes, and moved to the mirror in his bathroom, just opposite his bed, hissing at the abrupt pain that shot up his arm and waist. As he lived alone, there were no shower curtains and no womanly touches. The bathroom was always in a state of disarray, and various bottles of cologne and aftershaves littered the medicine cabinet. George quickly closed the door to see himself in the mirror. He noticed he now had several bumps on his face. One was rather large, closer to his left eye. The others spaced around his cheeks. He looked in terror as the welt swelled further and seemed to shake about. His stomach churned as he beheld his horrific visage in the dirty mirror. "This has got to be my imagination. I shall wash my face and surely wake up," he told himself, not quite able to convince himself of it. He opened the faucet gingerly, not wanting to look at his hand as he did so for fear of finding the welt gone, and slowly washed his face. The pain was almost unbearable, but he forced himself to continue to clean and rub his eyes. As he looked again to the mirror in front of him, he noticed at once that he was not dreaming. The welts on his body had begun to move. They stirred wildly, and he noticed 2 more lumps on either ear. He finally decided to take out his razor blade to try and cut the pustule on his hand open. No time for doctors now. I must make quick work of this investigation and then be off. There's no point in getting overcharged for an ingrown hair or ringworm after all, thought Mr. Bailey, frightfully. Trying to keep his calm and ensure he didn't sever his whole hand, he began to cut the welt on his right hand, shallowly at first. As George Bailey began to cut into his hand, the blinding pain once again reverberated throughout his entire body. He retched into the sink and saw spurts of blood come out from his mouth, and looked to see a squirming near his eye. As he watched, a beetle sprung forth from his socket and left his eye a gaping wound in his face. He screamed as more burst forth from their pustules, the one from his hand traveling up the arm to come out of his nose. The bleeding became profuse, and he could no longer stand without immense effort, and he began to fall over. His last sight was of a wave of beetles coming from his mouth. He fell to the floor with a loud thud, unable to keep consciousness any longer. The last of his will was expended on trying to arise from where he fell. He could no longer see nor feel the hundreds of beetles crawling about him. Soon, even the last spark of life faded, and the beetles were left to their feast. Happy Halloween, everyone. I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Sweet dreams and pleasant nightmares.